You know how physical therapists and personal trainers talk about the human body? It's like they have this secret language that they're all fluent in. Well, today, we're going to crack that code.
I mean, have you ever wondered how they do that? How a trainer can perfectly correct your squat or a therapist can guide your recovery? They all speak this incredibly precise language. But what if I told you it's all built on a really simple, logical plan that you can learn, like right now?
Yeah, exactly. Think of this as the official user manual for your body. We're handing you the keys to the exact same blueprint the pros use so you can start seeing your own movement with a whole new level of clarity. So, let's dive in. Okay, first things first. If you're going to use a map, you need to know where you're starting from, right? That little "you are here" dot. Well, in the world of anatomy, it's no different. To talk about movement accurately, everybody, everywhere, has to agree on the exact same starting position.
And that universal standard is called the anatomical position. This is probably the single most important reference point we have. You're standing straight, looking forward, arms by your side, but with one really crucial detail. Your palms are facing forward. That specific stance is where every single description of movement begins.
So, why is this so important? Because it gets rid of all the guesswork. It doesn't matter if you're lying down or even doing a handstand. When a physical therapist says, move your arm laterally, they are always talking about moving it away from your body center as if you were in this exact position. It's our absolute, unshakable point zero. All right, so we've got our starting point locked in. Now we need the map itself. And the map for human movement is made up of 3 invisible, imaginary planes that slice right through the body. I know it sounds a little weird, but let's start with the first one.
So just imagine a giant sheet of glass passing right through the center of your body, from front to back. This is the sagittal plane, and it splits you perfectly into a left half and a right half. So basically, any movement that happens parallel to that sheet of glass is a sagittal plane movement. Think about it. When you're cycling, your legs are moving forward and backward. When you do a bicep curl or a lunge, you're moving in the sagittal plane. Okay, let's move to our next imaginary map. The frontal plane is another sheet of glass, but this time it runs from side to side, dividing your body into a front half, which we call the anterior, and a back half, the posterior.
And if you're moving along this plane, you're moving side to side. The perfect example is a jumping jack. Your arms and legs go out to the side and then back in. A side shuffle, or even a cartwheel, is your body moving almost entirely within that frontal plane.
And our final map is the transverse plane. This one slices the body horizontally, creating a top or superior section and a bottom or inferior section. Movements in this plane are all about rotation, like when you twist your torso or just shake your head no.
So, just to recap, sagittal for forward and back, frontal for side to side, and transverse for rotation. Now here's why this really matters for you. So many of us live our lives in the sagittal plane, walking, running, sitting. A balanced, smart workout program makes sure you move in all 3 planes to build a more resilient and functional body.
Okay, we have our starting point and our map. Now we need the language to describe the journey, right? Let's get to the actual terms for motion.
Let's start back in the sagittal plane. The most common pair of movements here are flexion and extension. And flexion is super simple. You're just bending a joint, closing it, or making the angle smaller. Extension is the opposite. You're straightening that joint and making the angle bigger. Think about a bicep curl. As you bring your forearm up toward your bicep, that's flexion. As you lower it back down, that's extension. It's the exact same idea with your hip. Lifting your leg forward is hip flexion. Moving it back behind you is hip extension.
All right, let's jump over to the frontal plane. The key pair of terms here is abduction and adduction. Abduction is when you move a limb away from the imaginary midline of your body. And adduction is when you move it back toward that midline.
And here's a really easy way to remember this. Abduction sounds like you're abducting or taking the limb away. And adduction sounds like you are adding the limb back to the body. So lifting your arm out to the side is abduction, bringing it back down is adduction. Simple as that.
So we have our map and our language, but what about the actual hardware that all this is built on? Let's take a look at the body's incredible framework, the skeleton.
The adult human body has 206 bones. Now that sounds like a lot to remember, but thankfully, we can simplify this incredible structure into just 2 main functional parts.
So the skeleton is divided into the axial skeleton. That's the part in blue here. And the appendicular skeleton in pink. The axial skeleton is basically your core, the skull, spine, and ribs. Its main job is protection. The appendicular skeleton is everything else, your arms and legs. Its main job is movement. One protects, the other moves.
So we have the framework, the maps, and the language. But there's one final, huge piece of the blueprint missing. I mean, how does a rigid skeleton actually create smooth movement? Well, the answer is at the joints. They are the pivot points where all the action happens.
The secret is in the design of what's called a synovial joint. It's the most common type in your body. The ends of the bones are covered in super smooth cartilage, and the whole thing is enclosed in a capsule filled with synovial fluid. This fluid acts just like engine oil, lubricating the joint so it can move smoothly and without any friction.
And what's really cool is that the very shape of these joints dictates what kind of motion they allow. A hinge joint, like your elbow, is built for flexion and extension, moving back and forth in that sagittal plane. But a ball and socket joint, like your hip, that allows for movement in all three planes. It's this absolutely incredible engineering that makes all our complex movements possible.
So there you have it. We've laid out the entire blueprint. The anatomical position as our starting point, the three planes as our map, terms like flexion and abduction as our language, and the skeleton and joints as our hardware. The next time you're in the gym or even just stretching in the morning, think about it. Are you moving in the sagittal or frontal plane? Is that flexion or extension? You now have the keys. So how are you going to use